Hey, welcome back everyone. This video here is pretty much going to explain why I believe certain characters will make it into Pokken Tournament and some characters won't. And it's purely just based on the average size of characters that can be in a fighting game for it to be effective. Like they said, this game isn't going to feature any high, mid, low block systems, or I believe just in general, just a combat system. And it's clear why a system like that obviously works and a system like that doesn't work. In a game like Naruto Storm Generations, all the characters roughly stand the exact same height, except one character, I believe his name is Tsuchikage, the old guy that floats. In his case, he actually he flies, and that allows him to be hit by other characters. But none of the characters really ever do low attacks. All of their attacks in that game are pretty much center mass in just about everything. Pokemon's different because all the characters are of different height and different sizes. For example, Vaporeon is 3 feet 3 inches tall. I really don't think Vaporeon stands a decent chance in this game to actually fight because it's on 4 legs. I don't really see how they can make that interesting. My mouse is misbehaving. But there it is, pretty much. All of these Pokemon here are roughly scaled to their actual height in the Pokédex. Vaporeon is 3'3". Blaziken is 6'7". Lucario is 3'11". Charizard is 5'7". Eevee, I believe, is 1 foot tall. Pidgeot is 4'7". 4'11". Pidgeot's 4'11". Pikachu is 1 feet 3 or 1 feet 4, and Machamp is 5'7". So I felt just by looking at normal fighting games, the magic height average for this game, Pokken Tournament, is probably between 4 feet 4 inches, maybe 4 or 5, and like maybe 5'2" is like the average of a Pokemon can be in. They can obviously be taller in Blaziken's case, and they could be shorter in Lucario's case. Hawlucha, one of the new Pokemon in the game, is roughly 3'7" as well. So around Lucario's height size. But I feel 4'4" to like 5'7" is probably the magic height for Pokemon that want to be in the game. Another thing is these models here are not updated, I believe. I believe some of these models are from like the older games and some are from the newer ones. I found a website that had all of them all the way up to X and Y. I didn't look at any of the X and Y models, but I don't think all of these models here actually came in the I don't think any of the other ones, or all of these models for a fact, I don't think any of these, maybe with the exception of Pikachu, are from X and Y. Some other things to note, Machamp doesn't actually stand upright, so putting it flat down on a plane, it looks like that, and that pretty much looks tacky. So I kind of moved it around a little bit just so you can actually get a better height of it standing upright. But that's pretty much my reasoning there. This is Eevee, a whole 1 foot. You guys said you wanted Eevee in this game. I mean, as a fighting game player, this isn't very realistic. We don't want characters like this in the game. Can Eevee be put into the game? Yeah, it can. But the thing that worries me is the fact that it doesn't have a high, mid, low combat system. In Tekken 3, there was a character named Gun in the game who was roughly about 2.5 feet tall versus all the other characters. You know, most of the Tekken characters' movesets consist of high and mid damage attacks. About 66% of their moveset are high and mids, with the rest being lows. You can't grab the character, and you can't really do complicated combos on it. But Gun attacks mid and low. I believe he had high attacks as well, but most of his attacks were mid and low. And the reason why that didn't work for that game all too well was because it had a high mid low combat system. So gun would have been banned in any Tekken 3 tournament. Not that we are saying we will have characters here banned, because I believe they will do a good job balancing the game, but Eevee is just too small, way too small. Pikachu, also way too small. Somebody said they wanted to see Pikachu fight in a game and have him be like a kickboxer. I don't see it as a fighting game player myself. I don't see Pikachu fighting in this game. Since this is going to be a first-party Pokemon game, it is going to be a spin-off, but all the characters in this game are going to be Pokemon, so they're going to want to stay true to their to their height differences. Some of the characters might be a little bit taller, some might be a little bit shorter per se, the Pokédex, because when we saw Lucario and Machamp fighting in the trailer, they were roughly about the same size. I don't know if Lucario was actually smaller. That might be a detail that Nintendo might make them go back and do. They did say the footage isn't final, so there are obviously going to be changes, but we don't know what changes they're going to make. Also, another thing to note is that here, looking at Pidgeot's model, you can see, if I can orbit around it correctly. Okay, just stop that. Its wings aren't exactly correct. It doesn't have any of the actual folding that a bird's wings are supposed to have. So obviously, if they put it in the game, or if they put any birds in the game for that matter, they would actually fix that. Make the wings more correct, make the feet more correct, and stuff like that. So we really can't judge anything on Pokken Tournament based on the official Nintendo models. But I'm basically just spreading these guys here out just so you can kind of get a height difference to see how they would actually look in a game. And yes, Vaporeon is almost as tall as Lucario. I believe Vaporeon's 3'3" is its normal standing height like this, versus if it were to actually stand up. I think it might actually be taller if it stand up, you know, like normal dogs for the most part. So we would have to put that out like that. So yeah, I believe Vaporeon's 3'3" is its normal standing height. As much as I would like to see Vaporeon in a game, or even Eevee, it's just not realistic. And plus, I want to keep things that have arms, or things that can be used as arms. You know, Blaziken's got 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 arms, 2 legs. Charizard's got a set of wings, 2 arms, 2 legs, and a tail. So Charizard technically has 7 things it can strike with. I suppose Lucario does have 5. Pidgeot still has 2 wings it can strike with, 2 legs it can strike with, and it can fly. Pikachu is just too short. Its limbs are just way too short. Machamp, 4 arms, 2 legs. And another really important thing about fighting games is spacing. We know projectiles are going to be in a game. So Charizard, if it's in the game, could have its Fire Breath. Lucario obviously has Aura Sphere. Blaziken, we can't confirm Blaziken 100% in the game, because we didn't see any footage of it. The only Pokemon we know 100% for sure are Machamp and Lucario, as well as Mega Lucario. We can assume Blaziken is going to be in it, but you know, it's whatever now. Until we actually get some game footage of it, then we really can't say 100%. But we're about 95% sure it's going to be in a game. But spacing is a problem for characters like Pikachu. If we can get my computer to act right here. Pikachu's limbs, incredibly short. If you look at it, Pikachu's limbs are pretty much extend out to its face. That's just his arms. Pikachu's legs are pretty much stubby. This is the reason why I didn't put Snorlax on the list, because I just don't see it fighting well. If Pikachu wants to do anything competitive in Pokken Tournament, Pikachu would have to have 0 spacing. Pikachu will always have to be in your face unless it's firing electric attacks like Thundershock and stuff. If birds did make it into the game, I simply don't have to worry about those electric shocks. I just simply fly over and attack. Obviously, we don't want the bird's entire game to be flying because that'd be broken. They'll have to stay grounded for the most time. But Pidgeot, if it were in the game, would have flying options. And the fact that Pikachu can't have any spacing because Pikachu won't have any range on attacks it would need to do. If this is a 3D fighter, that's going to be a killer for Pikachu. We don't know if it's going to be a 2D or a 3D fighter yet, but since, you know, Namco is developing it, we can assume it's going to be a 3D fighter. This means any sidestep attempts ruins Pikachu, and the fact that Pikachu has to be in your face to attack, it just places it at a disadvantage. Same thing with Eevee. Eevee doesn't have any spacing. Charizard's got that long, thick tail. Charizard can space with it. Charizard also has other options like flying or biting or other things it does. And stuff like that. I guess Vaporeon could attack with its tail and it can space, but characters like Eevee and Pikachu, they don't have any spacing. People said they wanted characters like Mew in the game, and while it'll be cool to see it, Mew would actually suffer from that same problem as well. Mew, for example, floats. I think Mew would have a better chance of being in the game, but Mew is still a foot tall. It's just too small. So we want characters in the game that kind of have a common height. And I actually didn't know Lucario was this small. Zangoose is actually taller than Lucario. Zangoose is 4'7" and stands just as tall as Pidgeot. So that's kind of to get the idea if you want to do a size comparison between the two. But that's pretty much the reason why I chose the Pokemon that I did on the list. There's some others that could have been on the list as well. I didn't include Swampert. I didn't include Primate. I didn't include a lot of Pokemon because I was trying to keep the list small. But those Pokemon still have a better chance of being on the list than, say, Vaporeon, Eevee, or Pikachu, for example. But that's just kind of the reason why I did the list the way I did. This isn't Super Smash Brothers. So you can't scale all the characters to actually fight. You can, and you can scale the characters if you wanted to. But let's say we scaled Eevee just to be in this game. So we're gonna move it here and put it somewhere in the magic height size. Roughly that. That might be too big, but roughly that. I don't know about you, but that's creepy as fuck. Just saying it. Like, it doesn't look good for a first-party Pokemon game. If this was Super Smash Brothers, you can get away with that because Pikachu stands as tall as about any other character in the game. But we gotta remember this here is going to be something that Nintendo kind of wants to have on their flagship. And the problem with the RPG series is that they make it seem like any Pokemon can compete with any other Pokemon. But in the real world, you know, size does matter. You know, some animals might actually have a stronger poison. Some animals might have something going for them that gives them protection against bigger animals. But in an actual fight, the bigger animals will always win. If they do decide they want to go this route to where they scale the characters, then it'll be fine. And it may actually be fine for characters like Lucario, for them to scale just a little bit, just so Lucario doesn't seem as small. And in Lucario's case, it works. You know, not too big, but for the most case, you can scale the humanoid Pokemon, and it'll work. But just in case of things like Eevee and Pikachu, you know, we don't want to see an Eevee standing as tall as Pidgeot. We don't want to see a Pikachu standing as tall as Machamp. It's just odd, and it won't make it feel like an actual Pokemon game. So the best thing to do is just to not include characters like Pikachu and Eevee. Now I'm leaving Vaporeon out, but even the same thing. Don't include them. These Pokemon are better for Super Smash Brothers, but not in a Tekken-inspired fighting game. So hopefully this here actually clears up some of the reason why my list was the way it was, why I didn't include any Pokemon that stand on all fours, or the really small ones like Pikachu. It's just, as a fighting game player myself, you kind of know what works and you kind of know what doesn't work. And based on my experience of playing short characters in fighting games, they tend to not have a moveset outside like maybe 5 or 6 moves, and they normally break the game in terms of just being too small to where most of the attacks just don't hit. So hopefully this kind of clears things up. This is kind of clears things up for you guys, and you can kind of see where my head was when I was making it. And maybe since you guys actually have a visual aid now, you can actually see the things a little more correct. But there you go. There's the way the fighting game should look if these characters were in it. And I don't know about you guys, but it just doesn't seem as much fun. I can't undo anymore, can I? No, it doesn't look like I can. But that's alright though. Yeah, 3D Studio Max it's pretty much a memory hog, and my computer is not as powerful as my other one. So yeah, but there you go. There's Eevee standing against Charizard. There's Pikachu standing against Pidgeot. There's Lucario standing against Blaziken. So maybe this will help you see the things better. If not, and you still want to have Pokemon like Eevee in the game, you know, don't be surprised when they don't make it. And this is pretty much the reason why I think they won't make it. So thanks for watching this video. And I hope this answers a lot of questions, especially questions that developers normally go through when making character selections for games like this. And I hope you all have a good day. See you all later.